This is just an absolutely tragic story that came out of the Washington Post this morning, an investigative report. Medicaid, which is, designed for low-income people, for poor people, medical assistance for low-income and poor people. Medicaid will pay for nursing home care or assisted living care, but only if you're broke. And in fact, if you go broke just to qualify for Medicaid, they can even say, no, you still don't get it. I mean, there's all these weird little rules. I remember this from when my mother had Alzheimer's, and it was like, what do we do? My brother Stan took her in, my brother who passed away last year. He and his wife Cindy took her in, which was a noble thing. God bless him. And I visited a number of times, and it was tough for them. I mean, Alzheimer's is a horrible, horrible disease. But we looked at this, and just the finances of it were just impossible because you have to wipe yourself out financially. And so what has been happening is that people who have saved throughout their lives, $100, $200, $300, $400, $500,000, but we're not talking rich people, just people who have spent their whole lives saving money. They will spend, they'll check into an assisted living home and pay the $5,000 a month until they run out of money. Might take a year, might take 2 years, might take 3 or 4 years. And when they run out of money, then they qualify for Medicaid. And so Medicaid starts paying the bill to the assisted living home. The problem is that assisted living homes charge on average around $5,000 a month if you're private pay, but Medicaid only reimburses to the tune of around $3,000 a month. So now what's happening is these residents who wiped out their savings rather than passing them along to their children or their families, wiped out their savings by giving them to these retirement homes, these assisted living homes, are now being evicted because the assisted living homes want to get rid of the $3,000 a month Medicaid payments and replace them with $5,000 a month private payments. They just churn. Hey, let's bring in the next suckers. They start out, this piece in the Washington Post today starts out with the story of Shirley Holtz. She's 91. She requires a walker. She can hardly get around, or could. She was in the Emerald Bay retirement community near Green Bay, Wisconsin, and she was one of 15 people who got evicted recently because they stopped taking Medicaid. And Emerald Bay is not alone. They found dozens of assisted living facilities in Wisconsin were doing the same thing. And of course, it's not just Wisconsin. There are 73 million baby boomers hitting the age right now where many of them are going to need assisted living care. 4.4 million are already in long-term care paid for by Medicaid. Federal law prohibits Medicare beneficiaries in nursing homes from being evicted, but it does not protect people in assisted living facilities, which is kind of one step up. In fact, the U.S. government doesn't monitor or regulate assisted living facilities. So there's no federal data on this. But in Wisconsin, the Washington Post counted at least 50 Medicaid-related evictions since this last fall. They've become so common that some states, including New Jersey, are trying to pass laws to stop them. Holtz spent her entire savings, I'm quoting from the Washington Post piece, this is the 91-year-old woman who was evicted, she spent her entire savings paying out of pocket with the understanding that she would be permitted to stay once she qualified for low-income insurance, for Medicaid. And in Wisconsin, at least, but they kicked her out anyway. At least 4 facilities have canceled Medicaid managed care contracts in just the last couple of months. Cedarhurst of Madison had 28 residents who were kicked out when they canceled their contract. Cedarhurst, by the way, is owned by a real estate investment trust, diversified healthcare trust based out of Massachusetts. Isn't that sweet? So there's not even anybody in the state of Wisconsin to whom people can protest, who have any say. Megan Brulio, whose mother, Nancy Brulio, was evicted from Harbor Chase of Shorewood after spending most of her $120,000 in savings on private pay, she said it's appalling, to say the least. They say, here, let us take your money, all your life savings. You can live here forever. And then 10 months later, they're saying, oops, we miscalculated. We're no longer taking Medicaid. She provided an email to the Post in which Harbor Chase representatives told Nancy that she could transition to Medicaid after paying private pay rates for just 1 year. They apparently lied. And by the way, the median operating profit for these assisted living facilities in 2019, the last year we have numbers for, was 29%. I mean, grocery stores run on a 2 or 3% profit margin. 29% profit, and they're saying, oh, but we're not going to take Medicaid anymore. Shirley Holtz, the 91-year-old that I was telling you about, she paid private rates for 26 months until she completely wiped out her life savings, and then they kicked her out. By the way, on Monday, 3 weeks after moving out of Emerald Bay and into a new facility, Shirley Holtz died. The move was a huge factor in her decline, Mara said in a text. They call this transfer trauma. People start going downhill really fast when they get kicked out of a place that they've been living in for years and thrown into a new facility where they don't know anybody and they're all alone. This is just wrong. We need to change the federal laws so that assisted living facilities must take Medicaid and can't kick people out. It's really, really simple.